Hi, and welcome back to Heimler's History Economics Edition. So we've already talked about demand and supply and how prices affect the quantity demanded, the quantity supplied. We've looked at all the factors that can shift the demand curve to the right and to the left, and the supply curve to the right and to the left. But now we're going to talk about how supply and demand intersect at a magical, happy town called equilibrium. I'm going to tell you all about it. Let's get to it. You know what I hate about Target, other than everything? I hate the fact that every time I'm in there, on any given day, they have 20 checkout lanes, but there's only one open. And because they hate me, the only one that happens to be open at this time is the one that's on the opposite side of that stupid giant store. And to make things even worse, there's always a line like 14 people deep at the one stupid register that's open. I'm sorry, is Target not doing well enough to hire one more stinking person at minimum wage to open another register at the other end of the store? But you know what makes me happiest of all at Target? It's that when I'm standing in that line that's 14 people deep and I finally make it to the inner sanctum where the magazines and the drink coolers are, and then they open up another register all the way at the other end, and then all the people that are behind me rush to that register and I still have to wait in this line. And so then there's 7 people in my line and 7 people in that line, and there's nothing I can do but wait. Alright, talking about Target is stressing me out. I gotta eat for a second. Okay, that nightmare I just described to you is actually a pretty good illustration of what happens with supply and demand in an economy. And the word for it is equilibrium. If you'll remember, the law of supply tells us that the higher the price, the more quantity of a good will be supplied and vice versa. And the law of demand told us that the higher the price, the less of a good is demanded and vice versa. But something magic happens when all these forces are working together in an economy. Somehow, the magical, mysterious market leads consumers and producers to a price at which quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. And that, as I mentioned before, is called equilibrium. And just so you know, the price at which equilibrium occurs is called the equilibrium price. And the quantity supplied and demanded at equilibrium is called the equilibrium quantity. Man, I can't really picture all this stuff in my head. If only there was something a little more concrete that might help me illustrate these concepts. A graph. It's graph time. Okay, let's go back to our gummy bear graph from the previous video. Here's the demand curve and here's the supply curve for gummy bears produced and bought at different prices. And they intersect at this point right here, which we will label E for equilibrium. So as I mentioned before, the equilibrium price is the point at which sellers sell all they want and buyers buy all they want at a given price. Okay, so let's test this. Here at $1.25 per pound, it says that consumers are willing to buy 11 million and producers are willing to supply 11 million pounds of gummy bears. That means quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. And the market is cleared of gummy bears. It's kind of like a bowl of water. You knock it around a little bit and it'll create waves, but eventually it will settle itself back to equilibrium. And the same thing happens in a market. Equilibrium is not achieved all at once. Supply and demand have to get knocked around a little bit and create some waves so that everybody can figure out what the quantity demanded will be and what the quantity supplied will be. So let's look at a couple graphs that illustrate this. So as we just saw, the equilibrium price for gummy bears is $1.25. Alright, let's say there's a producer in town who wants to sell gummy bears for $1.50 a pound, and that's represented here. Now remember, the law of supply says that producers will offer more of a good as the price increases because that means more boom boom in daddy's pocket. So when the gummy bear lords hear that they're going for $1.50 a pound, they're going to up their quantity supplied. And that's going to give us a supply of 13 million pounds of gummy bears into the market. But here's the problem. What this graph is telling us is that at $1.50 a pound, consumers are only going to demand 9 million pounds of gummy bears. And this creates what's called a surplus. The difference between these two numbers is 4 million gummy bears. So that means at this price of $1.50, there are 4 million pounds of gummy bears sitting on the shelf somewhere not being eaten, which is a crime, of course, of unimaginable proportions. And so the producers don't want to pay more money to keep storing all this unsold product, so what will they do? Well, if they're smart, they're going to start cutting prices. So maybe they'll cut prices to right about here, and that means there's a smaller surplus, but they still have extra gummy bears on their hands, so they cut prices a little bit more until we arrive here at equilibrium, and at $1.25 per pound, all of a sudden the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied, and folks, we're at the magical happy town. But there's a second possible scenario. Let's say the price of gummy bears is set below the equilibrium price, here at $1. Now when the price goes down, people are all like, at that price I need some more gummy bears in my tummy, nom nom nom. But at that price, the gummy bear lords don't want to produce as many gummy bears because they don't make as much profit. So that means that people want more than the gummy bear lords are willing to produce. But instead of a surplus, this now creates a shortage. So in this case, at $1 per pound, people are demanding 12 million pounds, but they're only supplying 10 million pounds. And that puts us in a situation called a shortage. So the same thing happens. Everyone rushes out to buy cheap gummy bears, and as the stores start running low, the producers take the hint and say, wait a minute, we need to increase the price because we finna run out of product. So they raise the price until we get to the magical happy town of equilibrium, where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded, and everybody's happy. Seems like when you're talking about this stuff, the whole world seems right. All is well. Do you feel it? It's a feeling sort of undistinguishable from despair, so if you're feeling despair, you're doing it right. Alright, I'm done. Alright, thanks for watching yet another video on Heimler's history. If you're not sure whether you're feeling good old-fashioned despair or that economics tingle, then hit that like button and you'll figure it out. I have a surplus of videos over there, and if you want to help this channel find that magic land of equilibrium, then go watch those and you'll find it. And furthermore, if you feel like this channel has not yet reached that magical happy spot of equilibrium, then subscribe to the channel and I will supply more and we will find our way there. Bye.